If you're learning to code, I bet you know this feeling. You can follow along with a tutorial, step by step, no problem. You build these amazing things, but then the tutorial ends. You're staring at a blank screen, and you freeze. You know the syntax, you know the commands, but you have no idea where to even start. It is such a common trap, and we're going to talk about how you can finally break out of it.
Man, this quote from a free code camp guide, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? This whole cycle is what a lot of people call tutorial hell. And it feels super productive while you're in it, but you're not actually learning how to solve problems on your own. You're just getting really good at replicating a solution that someone else already figured out. And this really gets to the heart of the matter. On one side, you've got this passive learning. It gives you this false sense of mastery, right? You finish the project, so you think, okay, I get it now. But the real goal, where true skill is developed, is over on the other side, active building. This is where you're the one wrestling with the problems. You're the one making the tough decisions. That is the leap from student to pro. So how do we make that leap? Well, the escape route, it isn't about learning more syntax or picking up another fancy framework. It's really about a fundamental shift in your mindset. See, professionals don't just write code that works right now. They write code that can be understood, maintained, and built upon for years and years to come.
This graph right here tells a story that every experienced developer knows all too well. It's called the total cost of owning a mess. When you write messy, tangled up code, yeah, you might feel like you're moving fast at first, but over time, productivity just plummets. It grinds to a halt because the code is so confusing that fixing one little thing ends up breaking 3 other things. Pros know this secret. The only way to go fast is to go clean. The solution is to develop what the author Robert C. Martin calls a code sense. It's this almost intuitive ability to look at messy, confusing code and just know how to make it better, how to make it clean and organized. It's like an acquired taste for elegant code. But what does clean even mean in the first place? To figure that out, let's hear from some of the legends in the field. And we'll start with Bjarne Stroustrup, the guy who actually invented the C++ programming language. So for Stroustrup, it all comes down to focus and elegance. He thinks code should actually be pleasing to read, with logic that's so clear and straightforward that it's hard for bugs to even hide in there. And that last point is so critical. Each piece of your code, every function or class should do one thing and do it really well. It's all about being single-minded in your design. Okay, now let's build on that idea. Another giant in the software world, Grady Booch, he offers a slightly different but totally complementary view on this. Oh, I just love this comparison. Think about a really great book. The words themselves kind of disappear, right? You're just lost in the story. Butch is arguing that clean code should feel the same way. It should be so simple, so direct, that anyone reading it immediately understands what the author was trying to do, without having to stop and untangle a bunch of complicated logic. The story of the code should just be clear. All right, so we get why we need clean code. Now let's get into the how. And this is all about being proactive. It's about building good habits from the very start so we can prevent that productivity-killing mess before it even begins. Okay, first things first. Resist that powerful urge to just dive in and start coding like mad. Even the biggest, most intimidating projects become totally manageable when you just break them down. Split the whole thing into its smallest possible parts. Turn those parts into a simple to-do list, and then focus on one and only one task at a time. Every little win builds your confidence and gives you the momentum to see the whole thing through. This might be one of the easiest and most powerful habits you can build right now. Just look at the left side. What is Z? What does that even mean? You have absolutely no idea without tracing all the logic back. Now look at the right. You immediately know that a discount is being calculated based on a user's age and an item's price. See? Descriptive names make your code self-documenting. And this takes us right back to Stroustrup's idea that clean code does one thing well. Professionals have a name for this, the single responsibility principle. When you write one monster function that validates user input and parses data and saves to a database, you've created this tangled creature that's a nightmare to test and debug. The better way? Write 3 small, focused functions. They'll be way easier to understand, to reuse, and to fix down the line.
All right, let's talk about something every single developer dreads: bugs. For a beginner, that red error message popping up, it can feel like a personal failure, like a giant sign telling you to just give up. But we have to completely reframe how we think about this. I want you to really let this sink in for a second. An error does not mean you're a bad programmer. It means you're actually building something. You've moved past that blank page and you've created something complex enough that it can have a flaw. Bugs aren't roadblocks. They're actually milestones on the path to getting your project done.
So, the next time you hit a bug, don't panic. Get systematic. First, actually read the error message. I know it sounds simple, but it's really trying to help you. Next, try to isolate where the problem is. Use simple things like print statements to see what your code is actually doing versus what you think it's doing. Try explaining the problem out loud. You'd be amazed how often you solve it yourself just by trying to say it. And this is so important. When you find a solution online, don't just copy-paste it. Take a minute to understand why it works. That's how you really learn.
You know, becoming a pro isn't a one-time thing you achieve. It's all about building sustainable habits that support your growth over your entire career. These are the practices that keep your code clean and your skills sharp for the long haul.
Look, using a version control system like Git is absolutely non-negotiable in the professional world. Think of it like a time machine for your code. It lets you track every single change and go back in time if something breaks. But it's also the central hub for working with a team. The simple discipline of saving your work often, with clear messages about what you changed and why, is what allows huge teams to build amazing things together without creating chaos.
This might be my favorite rule for keeping code healthy over the long term. It's called the Boy Scout rule. And it's a really simple idea, but it has these profound consequences. It just means that every time you work on a piece of code, you have an opportunity to make one small improvement.
And we're not talking about rewriting entire systems here. The Boy Scout rule is all about small, incremental acts of care. If everyone on a team just renames one confusing variable, or splits one long function into two smaller ones, over time the code doesn't just avoid getting worse, it actively gets better. It becomes a shared responsibility to keep the place clean. So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this one question. Don't wait for some big, scheduled cleanup day. Think about the project you're working on right now. What's one variable name you could make just a little more descriptive? What's one tiny function you could simplify? The journey from student to pro doesn't start with some giant leap. It starts with that single, small act of craftsmanship.